Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. Jason here. Today I have a solo playthrough for Striking Flint. The year is 1936. The place is Flint, Michigan, in the heartland of America. The largest employer in all the city is General Motors, and in response to the low wages and long hours, you and your fellow workers, the rank and file, have finally formed their own labor union, which would come to be known as the United Auto Workers. They have gotten help from other factions such as the Women's Emergency Brigade, some socialist parties, as well as the CIO, Congress of Industrial Organization. In forming the union, though, you're getting a massive amount of pushback from the factory. They don't want to recognize your union. They don't want to pay you more. You know that they make no profits if their factories don't run. So what you and all the committees have decided is to conduct what they call a sit-down strike. You are going to occupy the factories and try to gum up the works, make sure that cars are not made, while General Motors sends various strike breakers in there to take you away from the factories and get things running again. That is the thematic background of this fully cooperative game for 1 to 5 players. The paradigm is an anti-worker placement game. This is a sit-down strike. You don't want to work. So your job is to deploy your forces and occupy as many spaces as possible so that they don't work. The bot is going to respond, trigger as many spaces as they can in its efforts to draw you out and neutralize the power of the union. It is quite a quirky game, but the more I play it, the more I see the little interesting parts of it. So it'll be my pleasure to present a full solo playthrough for you. I'll be playing 4 of the factions, and I'll see if I can outlast the bot long enough to extract some concessions and get a good contract for my laborers. So I'm going to fully explain the rules for this one and then jump into a full solo playthrough. After these channel announcements, we are the One Stop Co-op Shop, a multi-platform gaming empire, and your one stop for solo and cooperative gaming goodness. I am playing a solo game of this one, so controlling 4 characters. In a higher player count game, each player would get 1 faction, which includes the player aid, 4 workers, 3 that are in reserve, and 1 that starts out on the field, and also an exhaustion cube, which represents how we execute our various actions. As we execute actions, we are going to use our exhaustion cubes in order to calculate how far we progress on this time track. The more exhausted we are, the more time we use. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get all 4 of these tokens past where the concessions marker is. So every turn I'm going to have some conditions, and if I meet those conditions, then I can progress this concessions marker closer and closer to me. Victory consists of moving all of my turn markers past wherever the concession marker is. The main action takes place on this field of map cards. They are modular. They'll change from game to game. For the most part, think about it as these blue areas are like buildings and the gray areas are your streets. At the beginning of the game, I rolled randomly to set up these tokens. These are the strike breakers. I will get to them in just a second. In response, I'm able to deploy the starter workers in strategic areas, making sure that I occupy some factories. That's really important. For the factories, each individual blue square represents what the game calls a station. Putting them together makes 1 factory. When you're laying things out, you have to make sure that you have at least 3 factories, because a major goal of the game is trying to control, area control style, as much of the factories as often as possible. In order to do so, you have a couple of actions available to you. These top 3 are the very basic ones. You have occupy, which is place a worker on the station. You can pick it to place a worker on the corner. So there's different places that I can place my workers. And also there is resist. Treat these strike breakers like the pandemic cubes that they are. If you are next to one, then bang, get rid of them and try to defend your area. In addition to the 3 basic actions that are available to every committee, each one is going to have a 4th special action that is particular to each committee. I'll get into that as I get into the playthrough. As I take those actions, I check the cost on the right side of the card and pay it in order to execute. So if I wanted to occupy with the Congress of Industrial Organizations, then it would cost me 2. exhaustion. Another very cool aspect of this game is that not only can I use my cubes on these top 4 actions for my own workers, I can pay an extra exhaustion cube in order to do it to another worker. So if I were the socialist and I wanted to do a resist, but my red was not in position, but my yellow was, I can spend the 1 cube and 1 extra as a solidarity action, we'll call that, and I can do the resist through the Women's Emergency Brigade. Boy, is that helpful. Solidarity forever, people. Be careful with the exhaustion because there are 30 cubes total. If I ever have to pull an exhaustion cube and that pile is empty, then that is one of the game's lose conditions. We deal with that with the game's final action, once again available to every faction, called Rest, in which you are able to get rid of all of your cubes, reset as many workers as you want, and begin anew. I will demonstrate that in full as I get into the playthrough. The number of exhaustion cubes on my board when I end my action determines how far the time progresses. So if I had 2 cubes, let's say I was red, I would progress 2 spaces and then I'd be fine. Or if I had 4 exhaustion cubes, then I would progress 4 spaces. Turn making is basically Tokaido style, if you're aware of that game. The back most token is the current player. So this would move and then the CIO would go. And then the CIO would go and then blue would go. There will be some times where, let's say it was yellow's turn and they had 1 exhaustion marker, they'd be here. Then they're still the back player, so they are able to go again. As you can see, the logos for all the committees are printed on the board. The reason for that is as tokens land on or pass their own logo, that is how the factory is going to implement their action. Therefore, the GM factory does not act every single turn, but when they act, it is often painful. All right, so it goes in 2 steps. First of all, there is this event deck. You would check if there is a factory-specific event on there. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. What you will always do, though, is roll a die and look on all of the map cards to see if there are any covered spaces. Covered spaces is really good for the players. That means that you have successfully sat down and shut down the factory. However, if they are either uncovered or there are strike breakers there, then each space would activate in turn. In this particular case, I rolled a 5, which would be terrible news for the good guys because in this setup, all of the 5s are uncovered by workers. If it is an uncovered spot, then the spot will tell you what happened. So in this particular case, the active player would lose a worker. Terrible news. Or in this case, there would be a authority figure that is summoned, another strike breaker. If there are already strike breakers occupying the space, then that strike breaker does their particular action. There are 3 types of strike breakers. We have the straight up authorities, the popo. We have financial incentives trying to draw away individual workers from the union, and those dirty, rotten scabs. Another lose condition is if I need to pull from this pile of tokens and there is none of that type available. That is also a loss condition. Each individual strike breaker is going to do something slightly different. The police tend to chase folks. The money tends to tempt folks out of their stations. And the rat tries to push workers away. In essence, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get workers either pushed away from or removed entirely from the factory. The third and final lose condition is if there are no workers on factories, the GM bosses can come in with their scabs and whoever else wants to work, fire up the factory again and not pay us nothing. We got to prevent that. So that's all losing, which is pretty bad. What about winning? In any labor negotiation, what the union wants to accomplish is they want to try to get the owners to the table, make conditions such that they are more willing to make concessions, which means kind of running out the clock in a couple of ways. First of all, at the end of any turn, if the players control 2 different factory spaces without any strike breakers present, then we have worn down the will of the bosses won. In addition, for every event that I complete, events are going to have different completion conditions. If I'm able to complete a particular event, then I get a new one and I can progress the conditions more. So there's a couple of strategies at play. Do I want to play a more area control style game where I make sure I lock down my control of the factories? Or do I want to play more of a game where I focus more on the events, get as many done as possible? Either way, I want to progress this as far as possible before the bot overwhelms me. There is a lot of the history that is baked into the game components themselves. The event cards have some flavor text. The rule book has all sorts of historical notes inside there. There is lots to enjoy and to learn as you get into your own playthroughs. Let's get into our playthrough right here. All right, I am ready to begin. Got my opening set of strikebreakers who are all outside on the street. I got workers set up inside the factories. Right now, I control all 3 factories. Let's keep it that way. Next thing you do is you look at the event. Make sure that you have an event that is not already complete on the board. So I got, right now, prolonged idleness looms in Flint. You'll notice that a lot of the headlines of the events, they are very anti-worker and pro-company. Prolonged idleness, that's what people think a strike is. Come on now. They are ripped from the headlines of local papers in 1930s as this was going on. So you're going to see some anti-worker propaganda. All right. Each time the factory adds cubes, add an extra cube, exhaustion. If they operate, let's say I roll a 1 and they trigger this space, then it would add an extra to the active player. Okay. Removal. The player starts their turn with 5 cubes. I think I can do some inefficient actions in order to get 5 cubes pretty quickly. Let's do it. All right, so it is yellow's turn first. I could occupy. It's one of my favorite actions to do, to put workers directly in factories, factories being the win condition. However, that's very expensive. They could picket, which is put a worker on one of the outside spaces, a very excellent action. But let us remove some strike breakers. So they can also do that relatively cheaply. So they have a strike breaker here. We can remove one adjacent. Don't like these coppers over here. You know what? For the police, and that is going to be 1 exhaustion. 2 exhaustion means they progress 2 on the track. It is now blue's turn. Blue is going to take it on themselves in order to get that 5 and get started quickly. They have this awesome ability, backdoor. Place one of your workers at a station, and then place another committee's worker on an adjacent station. So they couldn't occupy by themselves, the women, but they are going to follow the lead of the rank and file. Come on, I know a back door. Let's get in there. So let's establish more coverage. Workers can occupy the same space for whatever reason, but it is always better when you can to spread out, because that way you cover more of the worker spaces. So now I have total control of this. I think this would be the Western factory. Sure. That gets the blue player 3 exhaustion, bringing him up to 4. And oh, by the way, at the end of yellow's turn, that happened because I was going to control factories. I'm going to try my very best not to forget that. There may be turns where I skip that. I'm going to do my best. Anyway, 4 progress means that they are going to move all the way over here and trigger a factory action. A factory action is 1 roll that will trigger up to 4 spaces. We have a 2 covered right there. Oh no, we have the rat over here. The rat is going to push people out of the factory or just away from them. 2 is covered over here and does not exist over here. About as good a roll as happens. That's why you want as many workers out there as possible. You want to shut down that factory, make sure they do nothing, let them know your value. Hands in pockets, no profits. And that is going to progress the concessions marker another space. So red has an incredibly powerful action. Not sure how this escaped playtesting. It's so good, I use it whenever I can. Rouse. Each other committee may take an action gaining exhaustion as normal. So for the low cost of 2 exhaustion, all 3 of these characters can go. We are going to go with, let's see, picket for this character. Both of these characters are actually going to picket, costing them both 1 exhaustion. Actually, you know what? Only one of them is going to picket. The other one is going to resist the Women's Emergency Brigade. Going to try to cover frequently occurring numbers. This is like also anti-Catan, where you want that number coverage so that the board doesn't do things. And we are going to have this one remove this money strike breaker. I like removing these, the money and the authority, because those are the 2 that can most get workers into their space, which would remove the worker. The scab pushes them away, so they're not as high priority for me. And the blue is basically going to set up for a rest next turn. They're going to use that awesome action again. I could load up on cubes as long as there are some in the reserve, and I got plenty at this point. So they are going to do their great action to get 2 workers out there. And let's get them over to places where there are not a lot of strike breakers right now. Cover up those symbols. Love the control. That will trigger, well, that's 4. No, that's 3. That will still trigger the factory action. Nothing off of the card. And 5. So we have a money strike breaker over here. Look at that coverage right there. I feel so smart when that happens. When I have a block there. Unfortunately, though, we have the police have shown up. Jalez and Miss Nancy's, get back to work. No way, Kappa. You should be on our side. You're a working man, too. Don't you know, laddie? The police always have money. So with continuing control, I still get to move that 1 forward. And it is now CIO's go. Their cheap action is picket. Not gonna think I have enough workers out there for now. And this grows. This can get out of control if I let it. The event deck has this nasty habit of whenever the event changes, it'll change the board. So just getting the strike breakers down is always good. Even though it is a little bit of a suboptimal action. Their special action, by the way, is moving people. Right now, I'm exactly where I want to be. I have had games where that has been critical, not so much. So instead, let us just go ahead and remove this rat strike breaker. Get out of here, Scab. That moves CIO's token 4, and that's going to trigger another factory roll. We got a 3. So no 3 present on here. Oh, no, that is an exhaustion. And due to the effect, that's going to add another exhaustion. Right there, that is another kappa and a block of an action. See how important it is to split the numbers, getting 2 or hopefully 1 trigger of an event per dice roll is a really nice place to be. Still controlling the factories. We're holding it down. I have the women are up next. They have 3 cubes. They are going to add a 4th cube. Get rid of that money strike breaker. You know I hate money strike breakers in particular. That progresses them 4 along the track. They pass their icon. We are going to roll. That is a 4. Blocked. Blocked. Not present. Blocked. Woohoo! Take that, man! So it is now the commies go. I have such good board coverage right now. I think it is worth it to just do that action again of making everybody else go. So we're just going to place out more workers. We're going to rest anyway. So I'm going to trigger a factory action, but having a lot of spaces covered for those factory actions is excellent. So let's go ahead and we're going to pick it with this character, and we are going to, pick it with both of these characters. So instead, we're just going to do the cheaper versions of all the actions. So each one added a cube, and each one is going to do their 1 cube action. So pick it for gray and yellow, and occupy with blue. Did I say pick it with the women? I said resist. Get out of here, Popo. I'm also going to resist with blue too. We don't need that many people on there, but just getting rid of the authorities is such a great thing. We are going to pick it with this character. I like covering the spaces that... Actually, you know what? I'm probably going to pull back some workers now. So let's go ahead and cover this exhaustion cube just to make sure I don't drain the pile, which only has 4 left, but I'm about to rest a couple of times, so I'm not that worried about it. That is 5 cubes on red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is 5 progress over here. So let's go ahead and give a factory roll. Got lots of coverage. 4, not present. Covered, not present. Covered. Yeah! Time to take a break. That was such a great opener. So it is CIO's go. They ended up the ones that are able to fulfill this condition, which is a player starts their turn with 5 or more. They have 5, more than 5. So they are going to rest. That just removes all their cubes. And I assume I finished the action. So I'm going to withdraw 2 of my workers from the field. How about I withdraw 1 of the workers and I'll start off with 2 exhaustion. That's okay. So that finishes this event. Well, by the way, I should probably have put that forward again. That is going to do that again. More concessions. And then we have an event. Prohibition returns to Genesee County for strike duration. When a committee rests, they gain an additional... I'm about to rest a whole bunch. Never mind. All right. So actually, that's not terrible because if I rest... When a committee rests, they gain an additional square and then place that from the supply on this card. So I'm going to build up some cubes from resting. Removal. This card has as many cubes on it as there are committees in the game. That basically means rest 4 times. I'm about to rest at least 3 times. So let's see what I can get going. CIO is going to progress 2 because they have 2 exhaustion, which progresses this one a little bit because I continue to maintain control of factory. Blue is up. You know they are going to get rid of their 9 cubes and rest. They get a cube from resting, and a cube goes on the card over here. Just need 4 more. So I get 1 cube from the event, and I'm going to leave 1 worker out, which leaves me 2 exhaustion. I'm going to remove these 2. So now the field is starting to empty out a little bit. Hopefully I can fill it back up by the time I do a bunch of triggers. No rest for the weary, though. Looks like I'm going to have to do one again. Let us use the back door and bring more workers out because I have the chance. So we are going to go put 3 on my board, making 5 total again because I need to rest. So it's like, okay, I want to take big actions and rest early in order to complete this earlier. Okay, so we are going to get them back right there. We are going to progress 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 1 trigger of the factory. Let's see. Nope, I have not rested. I'm good to go there. And I roll a 4. We know the 4 is my magic number. Heck yeah. And that really is the difference. Had I been rolling, say, 3s, the board would look much different. So you see that there's a swinginess aspect to it, but I kind of like that. Each game feels very, very different. The CIO is going to go. They're going to use their efficient action to try to block a... Actually, you know what? Let's block the exhaustion cube and move them forward 3. So here is where you tell the difference between the easy and the hard modes. The hard modes, these columns are all finished. So in the easy mode, there is a CIO space missing. So that is 1 less trigger for basically each faction. So there's 5 less triggers once you go over the course of the game. Not too bad. All right, so we have that one. That was actually for blue. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to miss these triggers. And then we have another concession move for CIO. I believe I'm caught up. I may not be caught up, but you get the idea. That is the just moving this concession marker is very, very important. Let's get to yellow. Yellow is going to rest. So they are going to remove all of their cubes, but they're going to keep 2 on there. 1 for 1 worker out there and 1 for the event, which is going to be another of the cubes needed here, 2 out of 4. That moves the yellow marker this way, and the concessions are going to move to the next level. I am on my way. And yellow goes again. Don't need to use yellow's actions just yet. They can kneecap. Move 1 of your workers 1 space, then remove 1 strike breaker from the street within 1 space of that. I'm where I need to be. So that is much better when you're trying to get into the factory and take out strike breakers. Don't have to worry about that this game just yet. The board is very light on strike breakers, so we're going to take advantage and put out more workers, this time on the picket line, and cover up another exhaustion generator. Actually, at this point, I'm not as worried about exhaustion. Let's go ahead and protect the workers that are out there. A lot of workers can be on the same card. It's protecting the same number. I'm just choosing where to put it, so I think I'm okay there. So that is 1, 2, 3, and that triggers a factory roll. Oh my God! But the orange or yellow abandoned this, so that is actually exposed. So now the yellow player is up to 4 cubes. So now the socialists, they're going to do their favorite move. They are just going to keep on letting everybody else go. The event cards have kind of leaned in that direction. So we're going to finish off the event nice and early. Both of these characters are going to rest, and they're going to take 2 back, 1 from the card and 1 from leaving 1 out in the field, which means that these 2 come back. And CIO is going to pick it through their cheap action. So now CIO has the board coverage while everybody else rests. Kind of like that lumpiness where it's like, okay, 2 factions can take a rest, the other 2 factions get things done, and then it kind of flips over. Awesome. And so this happens immediately. The 2 cubes go on there, and we have fulfilled the condition. This card has as many cubes on it as there are committees in the game. We got 4. So we are going to check that event for us, get another progress, and check out peace is restored as troops control Chevrolet Fisher number 2. What kind of peace is restored by troops? Anyway, each time the factory activates, add 1 copper to the street. So there we go. Now we're going to start to get more strike breakers out there. At the end of a committee's turn, there are 3 or more coppers in the street. Looks like this is one that I'm just going to have to live with the buildup of coppers in order to fulfill this event. Sure, I'm locking down the factory anyway. And we have more progress towards concessions because I continue to lock down the factories. A little bit out of order. I did need to progress this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A move I probably shouldn't do in the hard mode because this would be a logo, but I'm taking advantage of the hole in here just for the easy mode. So that's the current state of play. Nope, not a lot of strike breakers out there, and it is CIO's action. They're going to take 2 cubes, putting them up to 6, and get rid of the last strike breaker. Nice, clean board. Feel like I should get an achievement for that. The achievement is survival and winning, people. That pushes the marker up 6 to 16, and we are going to roll. We got a 2. Blocked, 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 not present. One of the easier games that you're going to see. It could be a lot worse with different rolls. And we are going to progress yet another on the concessions track. A little bit out of order. I did have to add 1 copper. I could add it anywhere on a street. Going to add it right there. As much as yellow wants to just punch coppers in the face, I've gotten my orders. Leave them alone, let them build up, and we'll take them out later. So instead, we are going to pick it, which is put another worker out there. I'm feeling okay with my these cubes so far. Let's go ahead and block the money strike breakers. I don't like the look of them, and 3 is kind of an uncovered number, so let's block that a little bit more. Progress 3. I haven't quite hit my other trigger yet. I will soon. Blue is nice and arrested. They are going to just continue to pound their special action. So we have 3 actions over here. We're going to bring out a yellow and a blue. It has to be in factories. They can't just kind of put them anywhere. So I'm not getting the number coverage I need right now, but that will happen at some point. 5 spots progress, 12 to 17. Let's see if I get a roll that's not 2 or 4. 3. Okay, I'm going to get an exhaustion. I'm going to get a copper. Look at that. That's what board control looks like, baby. Okay, so actually I get 2 coppers. I get 1 copper from the factory. So that is going to be there, and that is going to also be there. So we have our 3 coppers. This event triggers. So that means that we get 1 progress from the the end of turn. I'll take care of that progress before I forget it, and also 1 progress from the event. All right, let's see what we got here. Former Pinkerton detective tells of trailing McGrady in Toledo strike. Don't know who McGrady is. They seem like a bad dude. At the end of each turn, replace 1 money with copper. Don't have to worry about that. I've taken care of the money. At the end of a committee's turn, there are no money or coppers in play. So they flooded the zone, and now I have to take them out if I want to make progress on this mission. All right, boys and girls, go get them. Yeah! What did you say? Go get him? Got it. In the kneecaps. Kneecap says, move 1 of your workers 1 space, then remove a worker within 1 space of it. All right, so we're going to use those 2. We're up to 5 exhaustion. Move them out of the field, get more number coverage, and take care of a copper. Get out of here. Boom, boom, boom.
Ow, lady. Shouldn't you be at home pumping out babies?
No! All right, that they have 5. They're going to progress forward to 20, which triggers a factory action. Don't have to replace anything yet, but we have to roll and see if we get more coppers. That is a 5. We got the money. What else do we got? We have coverage over here. A rat has appeared finally inside of the space, and the authority. So the authority is going to strike back, and we're going to trigger and move into here. How terrible is that? So what this means is at the beginning of yellow's next turn, that worker is going to be removed. So I have that much time to deal with this somehow, so that I can, if I want to preserve yellow's worker. And also at the end of the turn, I replace a money strike breaker with a cop. So that puts pressure on this area over here, the cop supply. If I have to pull from here and I don't have any cops, then that is a lose condition. All right, boys, let's get to work. We still have control of 2 factories, so we are still pressing the negotiations. But we're exhausted. We got to fall in.
You gotta keep pressing, keep pressing.
Oh, says you. We're office workers. We're the Committee of Industrial Organization. We're a bigwig outfit over here. Our leader says that we should just relax and wait for...
Get out there!
I said wait for a more opportune time. Oh, well, if that's the way it's got to be. That moves forward the CIO, and they move back. Now I have red to go. So red currently has 7 cubes. If I did that awesome action, that would be 9 cubes. So that'll be bring me from 16 to 25, which would be 2 factory triggers. Don't know if I want to welcome that. So as much as a socialist, we're running and yelling that there's no rest for the wicked. Unfortunately, we do need to rest. And also, unfortunately, red was responsible for a lot of my board coverage, so we are going to have to live with not as optimal a rest as I would have wanted, but I think we can handle that if we can get yellow into the factory and kind of make a cycle. I'm going to try to do that. That moves red forward too. Another reason I wanted to rest, an activation without triggering anything. That just ticks us down. You see, I'm getting closer to moving everybody past the concessions marker. Now, I think it's possible to kind of time it so that I kind of shoot all of the tokens with high exhaustion actions past the negotiator, but that's a little bit tricky because I don't want to put myself in a position where I empty this accidentally with a bad roll. So now I think I'm in position to, kind of forget the resting and then move past the concessions. We'll see what happens. So at this point, the name of the game is ending it with as much coverage as possible. So let's go ahead and use the occupy action, get a worker over here, and preserve a worker in case I roll a 2. Once again, a lot of times I put the exhaustion cube marker on there before I take the action. In this game, it's take the action first and then use the exhaustion. For whatever reason, my brain is saying, okay, this is like currency. You pay for something and then you do it. But it's a little bit of a flip paradigm. Doesn't make too much of a difference, but if people are watching for like exact rules, I just wanted to state the exact rule so that you can avoid that mistake in your game if you can. So that is going to be 3 progress on the time tracker. That triggers a factory roll. Let's see. Let's go ahead and roll. That is a 5. The copper is going to arrest one of these people, basically. Who goes next? The tiebreaker is whoever goes next, which is going to be this one. They are now in, and that denies me. Wow, that actually denied me some control of the factories, so I don't get that progress this turn. The board is beginning to strike back, and with better rolls, it would strike even worse. 5 is an eliminated worker. We're going to have to say goodbye to one of our ladies over here. This worker is going to push a worker out, so they choose whichever one is going to go next. That's this worker. They are going to move that out, and 5 is... Whoa! Oh my God, that was a massacre. That was terrible. Don't even progress the concessions marker after that. How terrible. So at this point, it's the rush to the end. Normally, I would consider a rest action over here, but instead, we are going to try to push ourselves over the finish line. We're going to resist, which means to get rid of a copper. Get out of here, copper. No, thank you. They have 7 cubes, which is normally terrible news, but this is empty. So in the hard mode, I would have thought twice about that. In the easier mode, I could just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are now past the concessions marker. They haven't triggered that other action. So perfect. I now have control of 2 factories right here. That scab is still bothering me. Let's go ahead and move that concessions marker 1. That means it's the end of Blue's game. I just got to get the rest of them over the finish line. And we're just going to end this with a big melee. Get out of here, copper. Just punching them all out. That gets me some exhaustion right here. That moves this forward 3 spaces. I do get a factory action. Nothing happens right there. So let's go ahead and roll. That is a 2. That was the good number, right? The 2s aren't as devastating to me. Blocked, a scab worker, and nothing. And now that moves the concessions over to these area. Technically, that is a win, but CIO wants to be able to punch a cop. Unfortunately, I am not in range of a cop with CIO, so we are just going to end it right there with a victory. So you see, as I said multiple times during a playthrough, hard mode really does make a difference in terms of your strategy. The rolling does distribute things a lot differently. Having the cards laid out in a different way, you can have like 4, even 5 factories that are smaller, easier to defend, but the characters, the strike breakers, can kind of access them a little bit easier. There's so many ways in which this will play out a little bit differently. As always, my sincere hope is that I've given you enough information so that you can determine if this is worth your gaming time and gaming dollar. This one is from the publisher Hollandspiel. They don't usually go to retail. So in order to get it, you have to go to the Hollandspiel website. I'll have a link in the show notes below. You purchase it directly from their website, which is what I did. This is not a review copy. Spent my own money on this. Purchasing it from the website will trigger a print on demand, and they'll print it out and they'll get it to you. And that is Striking Flint. This is Jason with the One Stop Co-op Shop, reminding you that we'll see you at the next stop.